It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Let's be grateful for our regrets because they give us the growth, they give us the meaning, they improve our performance, they improve our decisions if we're willing to be analytical and strategic about them.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Hey, quick question for you, Kylie. I'm back. I'm back from New Zealand, by the way. Can I say how much I love being back on the Sunshine Coast where it is not 6 degrees in the middle of the day?
I ate all the chocolate.
Yes, I noticed. Can't believe you did that. This is Dr. Justin Coulson. Hello, I'm the founder of happyfamilies.com.au and the parenting expert on Channel 9's parental guidance. Also, dad to 6 kids, who I share with the mum of those 6 kids, Kylie, Mrs. Happy Families. She joins me on the podcast today. And Kylie, have you noticed that I've been using my telephone a lot less lately? I know I've been in New Zealand for the last couple of days, but have you noticed how little I've been using my phone over the last couple of weeks?
Maybe.
That was hardly encouraging. Really?
A little bit.
You've
been reading a lot.
I've been reading a lot. I've read I can't wait for next week when we have our book club conversation.
Well, I'm excited too.
Books this month. 6 books. Not that I'm showing off.
Yeah. How many dishes have you done?
I'm still doing the dishes like crazy. Not like our kids. The total screen time that I normally get prior to my recent screen time changes, I've gone from between 4 and 5 hours a day on my telephone to less than an hour and a half per day. I've gone from more than 100 pickups per day. I'm down to 42 pickups per day.
Oh, you've still got a long way to go then.
Should we have a look at your phone, Mrs. Happy Families?
Well, you can, but it's not very fair because my phone is used by 3 other children.
Oh, excuses. Now, the reason that I'm bringing that up is because I wanted to talk today about a topic. What moments would you take back so that you could have them differently? If you could go back and do it all over again, invent the time machine, go back and stop yourself doing or do differently if you had to go through that scenario again. And I was replaying various scenarios in my head and I thought, wouldn't that be a great podcast conversation? I'll go first. And you know what's interesting about this? The first one that I thought of was the one that I talk about all the time in my book, in my presentation, the one where I completely lost the plot with our three-nager, with Chanel when she was a 3-year-old girl, and I lost the plot. And that was...
Did you just call her a three-nager?
Three-nager, yeah. Yeah. And the reason that I would go back is because it was such a hurtful experience. I was so mad at her and I hurt her and it wounded me. It still does wound me today. And yet, if I went back and changed that, I'd probably still be a radio announcer. I probably wouldn't have quit my career. I probably wouldn't have gone and done my psychology studies, gotten a PhD, written the books, and we wouldn't live the life.
It was the catalyst for change.
Yes.
It was so painful that it created change.
Yeah. And so I kind of went, wow, I don't know if I would. It was a horrible situation. It's something that I hope I never experience again, and I hope that none of my children ever experience, and nobody's children ever experience. And yet, it was so important. And then I thought of the mistakes that I make when I get cranky and I call the kids a name or I ignore them or I'm staring at my phone. Hence my question, have you noticed I'm trying so hard to not use my phone anymore? I've actually deleted a whole lot of apps. I've blocked all the websites. I can now only look at 3 different websites. I've literally put a screen time limit so I can't look at any other website. I can't check the news sites. Can't even check Facebook. It's all gone. Because I feel so much regret over the times where I've gotten it wrong. What did you put on your list when I asked you?
This is a pretty tricky one because we all have moments that we regret. And I think probably the first one that stands out to me would be we had baby number 2 and then 4 months later I fell pregnant with baby number 3.
Yes.
And that was a really huge turning point for me in my mothering. Up until that point, I really felt like I had a handle on things. But when I fell pregnant with baby number 3, number one, I knew physically my body had not healed yet and I was not physically prepared for it, but I was definitely not mentally prepared to do that again and go through that process. And as a result, I fell apart, and that 2 years was very dark and very messy for all of us.
Yeah, you had some proper mental health challenges through that time.
But I feel like it took me not just the 2 years till I was kind of really back on my feet. It took me a long time to find my confidence as a mum again and to feel whole again, that had a huge impact on me and as a result, as a mother figure for my children, I don't feel like they ever got the best of me for many, many years.
And yet I look at those kids and I'm so grateful for them. They're just such great kids.
Yes, I'm not for any second saying I didn't want that child. Just so close together.
Yeah.
Was my undoing for a very long time.
Any other regrets? Anything else that if you could go back and change, you'd love to?
You talked about the three-nanger. She has been one of our biggest teachers in life, and when she became a proper teenager and went through her rebellion and rebellious stage, I remember for so long feeling really calm and peaceful. I recognised that she was just spreading her wings and she was just, pushing the boundaries, because that's what you do at that age. And it wasn't until she started sharing what she was doing that the panic buttons started to push. And I was so fearful of losing her that I did things that I'm not proud of, and we had conversations that I wish we'd never had, and interactions that were hurtful on both sides.
Yep.
And
isn't it funny how terribly badly we parent when we parent out of fear rather than trust or faith or whatever word you want to use instead?
And I just wish that I had have trusted my initial instinct, which was she's doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing right now. She's right where she's supposed to be. She is supposed to be pushing those boundaries. She is supposed to be trying to work it out for herself, because she is such a beautiful kid and she is doing life her own way, and it's not the way I would have chosen, but it's not my life, it's hers. And because of that, the relationship that we share is beautiful.
After the break, I want to share some ideas to help any parent who has some regrets, any parent who would love to go back and do things a little differently. Psychological science has given us a couple of hints on how we can move forward when sometimes all we want to do is look backwards. If you have more than one child, there's a simple truth. They're going to fight, they're going to compete, and they're going to have relationship troubles. But the real secret isn't how to stop the fighting, it's how to teach them kindness. The Teaching Kids Kindness webinar will help you to do just that, but also help them build lifelong sibling bonds that lead to lifelong friendships. Check out Teaching Kids Kindness at happyfamilies.com.au.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Have you heard of the first law of holes?
The first law of holes.
I'll take that response as
in HOLES.
Yeah,
holes.
like as in a hole in the ground. The first law of holes. I guess you haven't based on that response. The first law of holes is when you find yourself in one, stop digging. You didn't laugh. I was expecting more from you than this is.
Is this a joke?
Well, no, it ties in with what we're getting at
But
here.
that was a joke.
Well, no, it's actually something that's called the first law of holes. If you Google it, I'm sure you'll find it. Hang on a sec. I need to Google to make sure that the first law of holes is really a thing.
Well, you usually got your psychology hat on, so I was waiting for something really profound.
The first law of holes on Wikipedia. Here we go. The first law of holes, or the law of holes, is an adage which states, if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. When it is said, if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging, it's because digging a hole makes it deeper and therefore harder to get out of, which is used as a metaphor when in an untenable position, it's best to stop making the situation worse. More generally, it advises how one should solve problems of their own making. The second law of holes is commonly known as, when you stop digging, you are still in a hole. And that's why I just thought the law of holes was... We're talking about regrets. We're talking about the things that we get wrong. And I wanted to bring up the first law of holes because when we think about the scenarios where we wish we could go back and do them differently, what we're really saying is we found ourselves in a hole. Did we stop digging? What did we do? And when we stop digging and get ourselves out of the hole, we're doing
hard things.
Yes, that's exactly right.
We're stretching our muscles. We're becoming stronger in whatever it is that we're striving to achieve.
Okay, so let's talk about regret, because we both have these regrets from the way we've raised our kids, and we know that every parent does. And so I want to highlight some advantages to regret.
Well, they stop you from making the same mistake.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. I've got 3 ideas that tie in with that. What regret does is, first off, it improves our decision making. So because we've made the mistakes that we've made, we can now look at those mistakes and say, well, next time I'm in a hole like that, I'm going to stop digging sooner, or I'm not even going to pick up the shovel and allow myself to get into that hole. So our decision making becomes much better because of the experiences that we've had. Some people say, oh, I don't have any regrets in my life. And my response to that is, then you haven't learned anything.
You haven't actually been true to yourself.
Maybe, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not acting...
Do you know what your values are? Like, have you ever transgressed your values? How could you not regret things in your life?
I think that if you've learnt to people please, I think that's where that comes from.
But wouldn't you regret that as well because you're not living authentically? You're not living
but you
in
haven't
harmony.
even worked out.
Well, so you need to know who you are.
That's right.
So
I think that people that say they don't have any regrets are people that don't actually truly know who they are.
When I think about how regret improves decisions, and I think about the mistakes that I made with Chanel that day when she was 3, the decision that I made following that regret has changed our lives and the lives of hundreds of thousands of people around the world.
Yeah.
Literally because of that one thing. I still regret it, but I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't jump into the Wayback Machine, go back and try to stop myself from losing the plot that day because it has fundamentally changed everything for so many.
Well, and I think about the experiences we had with her as a teenager, and in some ways, as much as I wish that we could take that back as well, I actually feel like she saw us wrestling. She saw us wrestling with our own internals, and as a result could recognize just how hard it was for us to get from A to B. And the respect that she actually has for us now that we're at B only came because she was intimately aware of that wrestle.
Also, the things that we went through with her have made us better parents, and they've made us better, like we make much better decisions in terms of who we help and how we help them, and the families that I'm able to help. Like everything that we regret has actually been turned to our good for our learning and benefit and the benefit of those around us. Even having 2 kids 14 months apart, we make better decisions. Didn't do that again, did we? We got way better at it. The second thing that regret does is regret helps you to improve your performance. Like you just do things better. That's why my regrets around not being available to the kids because I'm staring at a screen. I now leave the phone in the bedroom, or I leave the phone somewhere where I'm not with the kids. I don't know if you've noticed, I just don't have the phone on me so much. I
wonder if we had tabs on a book, whether or not it would have the same.
Well, you know what though? Books have natural stopping places, right? End of chapter, end of paragraph,
Yes.
end of sentence. Whereas with Instagram, once you get onto those reels, once you get
agree.
on TikTok, there is no natural stopping place. It's engineered that way. You're watching a TV show.
But if you're reading a good book, it's hard to put it down.
Yeah, of course it is.
Even if there is a natural stopping place.
All I'm saying is the regrets that we have help us to do better. I'm on my phone less, and I think about times where I might have called the kids a name, for example. The hurt that creates leads to the regret that makes me say, I can't do that again. And so regret doesn't just improve our decisions, it improves our performance. But the big one, and you've really skimmed around this the whole time we've been talking without actually saying it, is regrets deepen meaning. So when you think about these hard things that we've been through, you think about the mistakes we've made, you think about the regrets that we make, the regrets that we create as parents, because we work through them and figure out how to reconcile from the ruptures, because we work out how we can become better, how we can tune our character to a higher level, how we can work with our kids and help them to improve after a regretful moment. What that does is it deepens the quality of the relationship. It deepens the meaning of our lives. The regrets that we have actually... I love that song. I don't even remember who sings it. I think it's a Frank Sinatra song. The line is regrets. I have a few. And I think we don't recognize the value of regrets. When people say regret nothing or I've got no regrets, I'm sort of going, I don't think you're thinking hard enough about it. I'm so grateful for the things that I regret.
I don't think it's the same for everyone, though. I think that some people feel stuck by regret.
Sure, and there's probably
it doesn't allow them to actually move forward.
And in some cases, there'd be some terrible trauma associated with some things. And I want to be sensitive to that. I'm not putting this blanket statement out there that we should regret everything or whatever it is. But I just want to highlight that regrets serve valuable purposes if we'll harness the value of them. And that's because we can do 2 things with regrets that we can't do with things that we don't regret. The first one is that we can undo it. So that's where apologies come in. That's where we learn from it. We don't make the mistake again. And when we can't undo it, because some things you can't undo, like you can't undo having 2 kids 14 months apart. right? Like you
can't. But you do learn to say no.
Yes, you do, don't you, Mrs. Coulson? Yes, you do. My mum used to always say 3 things never come back: the spent arrow, the spoken word, and the lost opportunity. It's actually a quote from William Gregory Page, but Mum used to say that all the time. And when I think about the regrets that we have, those words that I've spoken that I wish, they're gone. They never come back. So I can't undo those things, just like a couple of kids 14 months apart. But if you can't undo it, you can at least it. And when you at least it, you say, well, I do regret it, but at least... And then you find the silver lining, you find the bright side, you find the growth, you find the learning, you find the benefit that came, even though I wish that I hadn't done what I did with my daughter that day when she was 3. I do. I really wish that I hadn't. But at least because it happened, all of these things have cascaded through our lives and the lives of other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So with regrets, undo it if you can. If you can't undo it, at least it. But let's be grateful for our regrets because they give us the growth, they give us the meaning, they improve our performance, they improve our decisions if we're willing to be analytical and strategic about them. That's my big idea for today's podcast.
It's a big idea, but I like it.
The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon for Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. If you'd like more information about finding out how to make your family happier, we've got a webinar this coming Monday night, August 15th, that I think you are going to love. It's called What to Do When Kids Won't Listen. What to do when kids won't listen, so that you don't end up doing things that you'll regret. Join us for the webinar. All the details are at the Facebook page, Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families on Facebook, or you can find more info at happyfamilies.com.au.